So I wanted to say a few things about the gunpowder plot and Guy Fawkes. I guess this is a message to the Anonymous movement. The Anonymous movement are all supporters of Guy Fawkes, really. I mean, they like the Guy Fawkes story and history and the whole image of it. Mainly because of the mask that, the Anonymous group or movement are known for this particular mask, which the story goes is that it's just a random occurrence because one of the Anonymous movement group happened to go into a shop and it happened to be a particular time and it happened to be that those masks were in there for sale, so someone else made it. It was for something else, but they adopted the mask and it became the logo for the Anonymous movement, who are actually computer hackers, right? I've just in the shop opposite us, they've got the Saw masks from the Saw movie, which have kind of got like red cheeks on them or something. We don't know about the Anonymous movement story for sure. It's all stories and tales, and there are videos, documentaries about it. No one knows exactly for sure exactly the truth, but it's claiming that one of them went in and that mask was there. This is the thing, if at the time there was some hackers and there was some sort of movement and, it could have been planted, or, it could have just been brought to the forefront by some of the hackers who promoted these stories, to be the main thing. But either way, what's the point? Well, I just wanted to say a few things, whether or not the Anonymous agree with me or not, right? Regardless of the Anonymous story and regardless of how they got the mask, they've got it, so that's the way it is, whether you like it or not. They've got the Anonymous mask, right? Now, I'm not trying to write off the Anonymous movement or the Anonymous mask. I'm just trying to, this is my opinion, right, of Guy Fawkes. Whether you do or don't like Guy Fawkes, it's clear that the Anonymous movement, if the Anonymous movement happened to go into the shop and that was the mask that was there, but they're computer hackers and they said, we'll have this as a logo. Actually, they didn't actually intend, they didn't actually set out as hackers. They didn't sit in a room and say, hey, we like Guy Fawkes, let's use that as his logo. Actually, it just happened that there was a mask there, they chose it, and then it's the Guy Fawkes mask. And because of coincidence, they've got the Guy Fawkes mask, and now they like Guy Fawkes and they think Guy Fawkes is cool. They definitely didn't, sit down and say, hey, we like Guy Fawkes, and then go out and then get a Guy Fawkes mask and then say, now that's our logo because we like Guy Fawkes in the first place. They like and use the Guy Fawkes logo and image as the result of the mask coincidentally being there and adopting it, right? So that's the way around it happens. So, now, I've been looking at history and I've been working out a few things to do with like what's happened since the Luddites basically smashed up like the factory machinery because of they wouldn't raise up the minimum wage, and even though they did a big petition to raise the minimum wage, and then because machines were taking up jobs because there were less people who needed to work, more unemployment, and what the people who were working were getting lower wages, right? And they were losing their skills. Like, Keir Starmer's dad was a tool maker, highly skilled, less highly skilled people. And then the answer to this was the Met Police, right? This is when Sir Robert Peel invented the Met Police, right? Just following the Luddites and the back end of the Luddites. In fact, Baron Denman was active through the whole thing, right? So the crime went up as a result of massive industry boom. Less humans needed to work, and people, they didn't need skilled people anymore, and they wouldn't raise up the minimum wage. And the result in crime in the urban areas was they used the police. They needed police. They formed police. And don't say that the Luddites burned down Parliament, because it actually was Robert Peel who told them to go burn all the counting sticks under Parliament, right? And it's questionable whether William the King had anything to do with that as well. Peel gave the order, he gave the command, so it wasn't the Luddites who did that, I can tell you for sure, right? And then, right? What happens when you've got a load of people who are unemployed and not skilled, and they won't raise the pay rise? They get annoyed. Now, this is the thing. What else happened in the halfway through the 1800s when all this was happening? They took the juries out of the civil courts and the magistrates' court, and even the local council stopped letting juries make decisions, random juries, and just kept it to the councillors, right? The elected councillors who are all members of political parties. So you've actually got the random public who actually could make judicial decisions, like, the voters, cannot then make decisions in civil court against, factory owners, or disputes in civil disputes, even when a factory owner is split up with his wife, or in the local council, what you can build, where you can build, who's building these factories. It was all limited to these councillors, the jurats, the lower council. They stopped having, civil courts, and now the assizes were still going on until the 1970s, but they did start to do that in the mid 1800s. That's when they started to take away the judicial decision-making of the public, started to be extracted and removed. Well, understandably, if they're having less and less people working because the machines are doing the work, and they won't raise up the minimum wage, and there's more crime, you don't want they didn't want the public, the public at large, making the judicial decisions in the courts. It makes sense, doesn't it? Because the juries would be filled up with, maybe Luddites, or angry people who don't get a pay rise, or, people who lost their jobs, or people who aren't skilled anymore. This is the thing. It's obvious. And also they come down heavy with the law, with the Met Police, and then normal people lose all these powers of arrest and so forth for civil suits, and their own policing powers of the public, and it was mainly the public, and you had to go to the sheriff to issue the warrant, but the public, did a lot of policing. So you actually, the force, really, the police force was there really as a result of the industry, the industrial boom, really. It's not all prosperous. And, now we've got this cost of living crisis now. Are we really in much of a better situation? How much does it cost to send a parcel to America? About 15 quid. It costs more to send a parcel than the thing that you're buying. We're getting ripped off. Big style, can of Coke, £1.30. I didn't think that it would go over £1, can of Coke, but, it seems they're doing it now. Diet Coke as well, £1.30, insane, So, now what's that got to do with Guy Fawkes? Well, so, the Guy Fawkes was a lot it's earlier, right? So, Guy Fawkes, we're going back to 1604. Got this nice little black and white picture up here, and there's a couple of others with a gunpowder plot, right? Supposedly with their fancy hats on. If you want, we can go to get some nice images up here, although they're smaller. Can't see them as well. 1604, so it's saying. Now, this is the thing, right? This is my message to the anonymous, not done in a, message to the anonymous, or in some kind of, I could type it out on the Stephen Hawking's voice generator if you want, but, I'm just going to say it. This is my message to anonymous, right? And, I'm not blaming them. They did not sit in a room around the table and say, hey, Guy Fawkes is kind of cool. Let's go try find, Guy Fawkes mask. No, they happened to, hey, this mask's cool. Then afterwards, hey, it happens to be Guy Fawkes, so that's our new logo, right? It wasn't premeditated, apparently, so they weren't actually, out on a mission to, have Guy Fawkes as their hero or leader. Now, the thing is, the 1600s Guy Fawkes, there were quite a few different things going on in 1600s. They were only just found America, Ireland. Didn't all the Celts were finally kind of the Celts weren't fully the Irish weren't fully beaten until the 1600s, and then I think that's 1600s is when they changed the New Year, because New Year was on March. New Year's Day was in March, and it was like the Ladies' Day or something, apparently. They didn't actually change it till what we've got now is Christmas. Christmas was just like Michaelmas. They had like Michaelmas, Christmas. They had like, Easter. Christmas was just one of those other festivals, but still a festival. But they're saying that New Year's Day was in March. That's what they're reckoning, right? So that was another thing. But I think the thing with the gunpowder plot, and also remember that if they're finding the Americas and setting up a newfound land, but the thing is, 1600s. They didn't have permanent parliaments like we have now, remember? And this is the major thing. Even the long parliament and the short parliament, right, wasn't, and till the mid kind of 1640s, and going into the Civil War, right? So 1604, we've not got yet to the Civil War, and long parliament and short parliament. They're having parliaments, so like, through the 1500s and so forth, they have a parliament when they elect people and they call them together, but they didn't always have them. And when you haven't got them, you've just got the king, right? So you petition the king or whatever. You don't need parliaments. Parliaments actually was meant to be good because you elected people and it was more like for some involvement in politics. So if you actually aren't keen on the king and royal power, you're going to kind of like parliaments. You're going to be like pro-parliament, right? If you are, if you're opposed to the royalty, and if you're opposed to the conquest, you're kind of going to like parliament at least, because it's going to have a chance for the public to speak or the public to have a voice, right? And this is what I can't get my head around if you think about it. Why would a group of men, right, plot to blow a parliament up? If it wasn't held that often, and if it wasn't, if you didn't have it all the time, what's the point in blowing it up? Because you kind of like parliament and you want people to go there and represent you, okay? Now, you would only blow it up if you didn't like people having a say, or the normal common people going to make decisions. So you would have thought that really it might have been actually the king who didn't like parliament, or didn't want the parliament, or didn't want people to go there, even though it was an opportunity for, the royals to call people out. Oh, come on then, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Let's see. Come on then, who is the champion? Who is the best of you all? Come here, come before us. Almost like Robin Hood, with the archery contest with Robin Hood. Apparently Sheriff held an archery contest, and to see if he could lure Robin Hood to come out, because he knew that he couldn't resist a competition or whatever. Almost like that, send your finest men or whatever, to the Parliament of England, and maybe it was a way for him to keep tabs on people, or just to I don't know. But so you would have thought though that to have a say in how things have been run, they would like Parliament. So it cannot have been someone who was, if you were opposed to the royal forces, if you were opposed to the conquest, if you were the equivalent of Cromwell, you would kind of like or want parliament. You don't want to blow it up. So I don't get it. Now the thing is, following on from the gunpowder plot, we had this shipping tax thing when the king was doing the shipping tax, right? So the shipping tax was when he was trying to take money off everyone to fund this army and build loads of boats. Now, I found out from reading the petitions that loads of people were not paying it or refused to pay it, and a lot of them were getting locked up or were getting put in prison, and which wasn't really they weren't enjoying it. And this is one of the things where people were kicking off, and one of the factors that led into the Civil War. But also they were having religious disputes, and they were like getting their ears chopped off and put in prison for that as well. All manner of things, whether you won't pay the shipping tax or whether you had religious disputes and so forth. People were getting banged up. So that's one of the factors that led into the Civil War, right? And the whole Cromwell versus the Crown. We can follow on all the way through the whole, we could do the whole story. It's actually interesting how it all fits together, the whole thing, as far as back as we can remember when you're all put into one thing. I'm particularly noted when the Luddites, when they wouldn't raise up the minimum wage and they brought these machines in. I think that for me is leading up to the Labour Party. It all makes sense now, and you can see how really, they're taking away judicial power from people and they get them to do what they want, but they're making loads of money out of it, and all the things they're making aren't necessarily that good or healthy for us, But what I'm trying to say, going back to the gunpowder plot, because when Parliament burned down in the 1830s, and because it was Peel who orchestrated it, right? I know there was also a fire of London as well, and the plague and everything like that, but I think, because I think that it was William and Peel who burned down Parliament. I think they did it on purpose, out of spite, because they wanted to destroy a lot of the history and all the petition archives and people's rights, and they got a new police force coming in, and all the Parliament archives were a lot of evidence and proof of grievances, and they were wanting to publish a lot of Parliament's work, and they didn't want people to get access to all of the complaints and claims that people had against Parliament, written down in petitions as well, because we've got the printing press and publishing, and it could be a lot of libelous, slanderous claims in there, but also, our rights and so forth. And they carried on burning them and destroying them up till 1947, remember, and that's when they claim to pull the peer privileges as well. It all ties in together. The whole thing is quite an interesting saga, the whole history of it all. And then there's what's happening in America as well. But because, it's because Peel did give the order to burn the counting sticks, right? It's not like someone smuggled them in or whatever, or unless someone popped the idea into his head. But he told them to go burn them, didn't he? Right? And then who gave him who gave him the order? And this is the thing. Supposedly Denman was not best mates with the king, right? Denman, apparently, so we're told, wasn't on good terms with the king. They didn't like each other, apparently, and he was a Whig, and Whigs versus Tories or whatever. Denman was meant to defend the Luddites, but they ended up hanging. I think they had to make an example out of them to scare them, so other people won't kick off, really, to hang them. It was almost like the equivalent of putting Tommy Robinson in prison and Julian Assange, really, hanging those Luddites, so everyone else, trying to scare everyone else. But really, I think Denman, because there was a petition for minimum wage, I think that Denman could have argued it under political rights, and at least made them pay for all the damage they'd done. I would have thought, under immunity from criminal liability, but they would have to pay for all the damaging machines that they'd done, maybe, something like that. But maybe he tried. I don't know whether he did legitimately try or not, or whether it was similar to what they're doing now with Tommy Robinson and Julian Assange. What they're doing now, so it's making an example out of people and blah blah blah, or using it as a bit of everyone's scared or whatever, so leverage. So but let's if Denman was legitimately apparently they're saying that he himself, he never really earned that much money, or I don't know whether I believe that, because apparently lawyers are on loads of money. Lawyers now are making tons of money. I don't know whether I believe that or not, but they're claiming that he wasn't loaded and he didn't have loads of money and he wasn't pursuing money. Said that he was a Whig, and but he ended up being Lord Chief Justice. But I don't know who to believe, but if that's the case, and he was kind of like pro, rights, Bill of Rights, privileges, and so forth, and if he was at odds with the king, that would explain if the king did it out of spite to burn down Parliament and destroy all the history. But there could have been some collaboration in it. Could have been beneficial for both sides. Either way, it didn't really stop government really, because they were still meeting for Parliament and having sessions. They just held it other places, so it didn't really make too much difference. From what I've been reading about it, actually reading some of their writing at the time, they didn't seem that bothered about Parliament burning down. They just kind of sort of carried on as if, just shrugged their shoulders. It wasn't like a big. Maybe the Americans might have laughed and thought it was funny, but it didn't seem like they weren't crying about it. They were just kind of getting on with things, just shrugged it off, sort of thing. It definitely was suspicious, and it was. Whichever side it was, whether there was a collaboration between Whigs and Tories or whether it really was done out of spite, it wasn't Guy Fawkes or the Luddites who did it. It was someone in government. I think it was William. That's my opinion. I think it was Peel and William, and then they got the Met Police and they said, right, get all these paupers under control. We're not giving them any more money, and they're going to lose all the skills, and we're going to get them all for kicking off, basically. And I think we're in a similar situation now. Surveillance tech. We're going to have surveillance everywhere. We're going to have tech everywhere. We're going to watch every move. And now money's worth nothing. Cost of living crisis and inflation. Now kind of pops 130, and it's 50 quid to send something to America in the post or whatever. Just insane. Are we any better off? This is the thing generally. So, and they still want to blitz us with loads more building. What good did that do? So. Apparently it's poisoning us all with all these fast foods and chemicals. So, it's just stupid. So, because I kind of that burning of Parliament is a significant thing, and I don't think that it was an accident, and I don't think that it was like the Luddites or, some plot from the commoners. I think it was an aristocratic move out of spite. Or strategic. Therefore, if we go back to the gunpowder plot, right, this is what I'm wanting to say to the anonymous movement who are using the Guy Fawkes logo. I'm saying that if you were for the people, if you were for democracy or for the common people, Parliament was a rare chance where you could sort of get things done. Now, I'm not saying about what the things they were doing at the time, whether the people didn't like the things they were or weren't doing, but what I'm saying is, if you're kind of not keen on the conquest and not that keen on royal powers, and you want more powers of the common people and to send representatives to represent what the people think, wouldn't you be pro-Parliament or all for Parliament? You wouldn't want to burn it down. So that's why I'm thinking, the people... Guy Fawkes and the rest of them who ended up being, set up on this plot, who really was pulling their strings, or who really was the orchestrator, Milady de Winter type characters and all that, was it a guy whispering in the corner, popping ideas in their head, who might have been someone higher up and ended up getting caught? Did the king might have wanted to blow Parliament up, but why did he call it in the first place? Apparently it was their idea to try to get, other people involved, send me your finest men or whatever. Maybe they would try to blow it up with them all in there. Maybe if they'd have blown it, maybe if Parliament had have got blown up with all the representatives in there, maybe all the people, the commoners, would have shit the pants and, be scared, Almost kind of now we're getting these, train crash or, terror incident. Is it just another one of those terror incidents? But they ended up getting caught anyway. They didn't actually... maybe it's just setting another example. But I'm actually dubious of it now. because of that burning of Parliament. I'm quite dubious, and I need to read into it a bit more and have a look more into it and what the claimed motivations were. But then again, I have to say that there's actually there was a hell of a lot of plots going on around that time. There was plots with the Scots and plots to overthrow this, and there was a lot of family plots. There was some MP, some member of Parliament, he had 22 brothers and sisters, massive siblings, right? He was shagging like rabbits. And then two of his sisters, they were trying to take him to court to claim half of the money for the estate, because there were 22 of them, and he was using Parliament privileges to protect himself, so they couldn't take him to court civilly to split up the estate. So there were all kinds of family feuds and disputes going on, and then apparently one of the guys who was leading the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, who was helping the royalty conquer Ireland, he actually ended up getting in trouble when he was actually meant to be the Lord Lieutenant, and I just read that he got in trouble and he was got put in prison or something by the Queen or whatever when he was meant to be. So, but so he was even trying to take over Ireland and conquer it, but then he ended up himself getting. And then there's all this, Sir Walter Raleigh is ending up in prison when he displeases the Queen. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There was a lot of. Maybe there were a lot of people with crazy ideas back then, and when people were armed, not surprising, that Oliver Cromwell, but that's kind of 40 years after. I'm still dubious as to why, if Parliament was a rare chance for the people to have a say, why would the people's people want to blow it up? So that's the thing, whose side were, whose side... You'd have thought, this is the thing, right? This is what I wanted to say to the Anonymous, basically, is this, right? If you wanted to cause a disruption or disturbance, but not on the side of the common people, or the people, the elect, people who believe in having a vote and a say, Parliament is a big part of having a vote and a say, right? So why would you want to blow Parliament up if you were a big supporter of having a vote and having a say? Right, but this is the thing, right? This is when we're meant to burn Guy Fawkes on the bonfire. We're meant to throw Guy Fawkes on the bonfire and have a bonfire every year to celebrate it because he was the person who tried to destroy democracy. He's tried to destroy democracy and blow up democracy, right? But this is the thing. We're Guy Fawkes, they can't have been on the people's side and the democracy's side, can they? So they're not really heroes of the people, but that's why we burn it and we have the bonfire, because they're not heroes of the people in democracy. But the thing is, though, so what was it all about? The thing is, if you're opposed to, tyranny and power and so forth, why didn't they try and blow up, the palace or something? Why didn't they try and blow up Whitehall or Buckingham Palace or something like that? Don't try that at home, by the way. I'm not suggesting anyone should do that. But what I'm saying is, if that group of people were opposed to, authority and power, you'd have thought they'd have done something more blow up, something more interesting than Parliament. But saying that, this is what they're posed as. They're posed as, why should the people's people, why should everyone in England have a bonfire? Why should everyone in England say, yeah, we'll put Guy Fawkes on the bonfire, he's a bad guy, because he tried to stop democracy, he tried to blow up Parliament, and that's why he's bad, and we'll put him on the bonfire, right? Rather, Guy Fawkes on there or whoever, rather than, but, so they're actually... They're posed as people who try to stop democracy or start to stop people having a say in government, right? Not actually opposing tyranny and just elite power, actually opposing the people's power, which is the twist on it, So, and the thing with the anonymous group is the anonymous group are meant to be kind of supposedly for the people. The anonymous hackers supposedly claim to be for the people, for everyone having a fair say in vote and against cheats. So it's a bit of a mind bender why you would like and support Guy Fawkes if he was trying to destroy and blow up democracy and fairness. It's a strange position to advocate, which is why I'm wondering, what was it, just another royal plot? Was it another royal plot to actually blow up democracy? Because I think that's what the burning of Parliament was. But it didn't really stop democracy. The blowing up of Parliament didn't really stop democracy. They just carried on and held parliaments in other places and offices. So, it's a bit... The whole thing with the burning of Parliament is it didn't really affect or change much. And I don't really think that it would have affected or changed much if Guy Fawkes had have blown Parliament up. I don't think it would have affected or changed much. Well, it clearly didn't, under the Robert Peel government, So it tends to be more symbolic, but it's definitely some kind of symbolic thing against democracy and voting. So it's odd that it would take up that stance. And the other thing, I think, is that notice how something becomes religious. This bonfire night in Guy Fawkes and burning the bonfire, it's almost become a religious... They don't have it in America. Maybe that's why they kind of think it's a bit cool, because they don't really have it in America. We only have it in England. But the thing is that, it's kind of like... you can see with the old Jesus on the cross thing, it became a religion. And this is leading on to the other video that I want to do. I want to do a talk about the whole thing. I'm going to do a talk on Christianity, because I've had a little bit more of an informed kind of like... I've had a bit more of an informed kind of like insight into it now, and I want to make a video talk about it. I'm going to watch that Jordan Peterson video with Dawkins, because I think that'll be interesting. It's quite a long video though. It's like over an hour, but it's Dawkins and Jordan Peterson, and I'm going to watch that because I'll probably have quite a lot to say about it, and then I'm going to put my views in, my updated views on the whole thing of the religion, which is the thing. You see, crucifixion was something they did to criminals. It's like a punishment for a crime. So it's like, crime, criminal, a criminal process, criminal thing, like judicial courts, ends up being the main symbol of an entire religion. The actual process of punishment in a court, judicial. And it's funny that, and the whole thing that, when you go into court and you swear in the Bible, you think the court's court, judges are judges, and you think that this is not church, this is court. When you go to court, when you go to church, you're like, oh, I'm in a church now, this is where you get married, it's where you pray, it's kind of like a nice place, or holy or spiritual, right? But yeah, at the front of it, it's actually, oh, just a minute, there's a guy who's been convicted, right? It's court. Oh, look, yeah. And I think that, I don't know how other people see it. Maybe I'm the retarded person, but what's the whole dogmatic thing with religion, and the whole weird thing about religion, the whole dogmatic twist, is that, just a minute, what is a church and what is religion, right? Because when you go see the Buddha or Hindus, or if you go, the word religion and praying is one thing, and spiritual and the word God is one thing, right? The whole religion and this God, prayers, meditating, or creation, Adam and Eve, or, things like that. It's kind of like, all that is sort of like spiritual, or, creation, a bit scientific and a bit mysterious. But a particular crime, right? Okay, crime. So, you broke the law, and, you go to a court, and then you're punished, and this is the punishment. So, I know it's right there in front of you, and it's really obvious, and it's there all the time, but because of this whole church, praying, spirituality, and creation part of it, you see, the church had the congregation room, and it also had the separate in Ireland they had the bell tower was separate. They didn't put it together into the modern effigy of what it is now. And before it was separate. But there's also the talk that I want to do about, religion and the Greeks and the whole. I think that it's more of science and university, because you've got science, university, and the whole aspect of learning, the sciences. But the main thing about, like, you see, the Jewish religion, the Ten Commandments and everything, before Jesus, and the whole Roman religion with Zeus and all the different gods. The thing what happened, with Christianity is this is actually like going to court and crime, right? So you've got court, judicial punishment and crime, which that is now, like, I didn't, it's there in front of you, but I just didn't, like, I'm like, this is like, it's almost like if you went into a courtroom, right? You didn't pay a parking ticket, or, you got in a fight outside a pub, right? You go to court, and a court is a court, right? And there are three justices, it isn't a church. But, you get, sent on community service, or you get a fine to pay, or even have to go to prison. But they have got a box there, if you do, you can be in court kind of like of your own volition, or you could be there because they dragged you in, and sometimes you go in a box. At that point, and they also have the cells there, but you can't see the cells. But it's almost kind of like, if every single person who had been, can you imagine, if they were still doing like whipping. I mean, they had corporal punishment, didn't they? Like, I've seen some acts of law, abolish whipping, abolish hard labour. Like, these are the punishments, the sentences you get in court, like, hard labour, 2 weeks hard labour, or actually be whipped or whatever. But that's actually the business of what the court's dealing with. So if you actually imagine that in the building and don't have it out of the building or in the next room, but actually, just at the front to the side, you could be effectively having some people whipped at the front of the court while you're in there, put you off, like, pleading guilty, wouldn't it, But, that, if you think about it, if you're in court being whipped, you got the whips, kind of makes you think of Parliament and the whips, right? That's getting a little bit more into like, I'm in this building, why is a guy nailed to a cross at the front, It's like, it's meant to be like pray to God and, all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, this is how the world was created and life, and, pray for something good, like, I'd pray for a, cheesecake or something, or a strawberry twist, It's like, is this, have I come into the right building? Is this a court? Is this for naughty people, or is this like church? And this is good. This is the thing, and it's all judicial. That's actually judicial justice, right? But what's that ended up in a place that is meant to be like, praying to creation, like put a seed in the floor and growing a flower. And the thing is, that Jewish religion, before Christianity, it was a burning bush, not a growing plant or a growing seed, but a burning bush on fire. Set fire to it, which I think is quite odd. I'm not knocking the Jewish religion. I'm just like comparing. And they had like the Ten Commandments, but it's on. I've ended up talking about religion. I'm supposed to be talking about the gunpowder plot, but I mean I'll just go with it now. But like. The odd thing about this is one odd thing, interesting contradiction with the Jewish religion that I've just noticed. I'm not knocking it. I'm just pointing out a contradiction, which is, if you've got 10 commandments, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's your core, basic, the hardcore religion, and one of them is thou shalt not kill, right? Why would one of your main symbols be setting fire to a bush and having it burn, because isn't that killing a tree? And I know that it's meant to be thou shalt not kill other people, but you're allowed to eat plants, and maybe that symbolises, cooking like dinner or something. You can cook and kill plants, but not people. But when you put a seed in the floor and grow it, it's more like life. It's more like all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, flowers, growing life and flowers. You'd have thought it would be a growing tree, not one on fire, because it's, life is life and thou shalt not kill. So, but, maybe it does symbolise, like you can eat plants as life, but, but then again, they did eat animals as well. So let us prey on animals, but let us, put hands together and pray for good things. It's kind of strange. But anyway, so yeah, coming back over here, it's that there's always something dogmatic about churches when you grow up, but it's putting your finger on it. And usually as you're a child, you're not actually you won't see a court when you're a child because you're not old enough to be prosecuted until you're like 16-year-old. So you won't get arrested or go to a court or be punished until you're like, 10-year-old or whatever. It's not for children, right? Being, judicially punished. So it's odd that you go to church, which is meant to be for praying and life, but, there's this guy on a cross, which is a judicial punishment, like it's something related to courts, right? A court, law. But you're in a place which is spiritually and growing. So if you think about it, it is quite intimidating and questionable to children who aren't meant to be old enough to know the difference between right and wrong and good or bad. They're not supposed to know the difference between right and wrong or good and bad, which is ironic to have a criminal there who has been subjected to the judicial punishment and is on the cross. You would have thought you wouldn't want children to see it, although maybe it's putting them off being naughty when they grow up, having it in the church. But saying that, it's ironic because, it's almost like the complete opposite of now we've got abattoirs, we've got abattoirs where they kill animals. They keep them out of the way, they hide it from children. So it's funny that you want to see, someone nailed to a cross if you're not old enough to know the difference between right and wrong or good and bad or even be prosecuted. But I don't know. Maybe that's the whole point in learning. It's a very strange dogmatic thing, the church. But definitely remember that while Jesus was alive, whatever we've got now, he was obviously, his parents were Jewish. They didn't have Christianity. He invented it, and remember that, whatever that symbol that is that religion was actually mainly a Roman criminal punishment, which has ended up as a symbol of a religious order and church, which I know there's like, from Christ to Constantine, there's like, 300 or 400 years or whatever. It's, I wanted to do it in a separate video and talk about it. But so there's this criminal side of it, but it's interesting that it ended up being a religion. It's just like a judicial punishment in law, courts, get whipped, have to do hard labour, or end up crucified on a cross, or being stoned, or whatever. And it's funny that we ended up with this as an entire religion, but it's funny how we quite almost as easily end up with Guy Fawkes, with this bonfire, and they put Guy Fawkes on the bonfire and burn him, and, you do it once a year or whatever, symbolically. It becomes religious, becomes ceremonial, every year, and symbolically, he's the man who was going to destroy Parliament or blow it up. But, he's, Jesus Christ wanted to, save us from our sins, or, blah, blah, blah. There's definitely a similar process going on with how we've got Guy Fawkes in the bonfire, because not many people make a guy and put him on the fire, but how Jesus ended up on the cross. It's a very similar process. A guy who, the things that are similar and in common are, this guy, he ended up being charged of crimes, and but he ended up being celebrated. Similar with Guy Fawkes, he did crimes, and he ends up being celebrated with a burning on the fire. It's very, very extremely similar process, although Jesus wanted to save everyone from, their sins and, and so forth. But Guy Fawkes apparently was opposed to, he wanted to try and destroy democracy or get rid of it. What I actually believe now, through looking at history, is they've pulled people out of juries. That's getting rid of democracy. A hell of a lot of democracy is in juries, the judgment of your own peers, and particularly in like building and planning for what factory owners can do. And what about minimum wage? Shouldn't we decide what the wages should be, and whether factory owners can build factories and what they should be building all around? I think judicial power has been taken away from the people more and more, and then we just end up with this flick of coin, heads or tails, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. So it's just an interesting thing. But you can see how the Guy Fawkes has ended up this kind of like almost religiously build the fire, put a guy on it every year, and you do it and everyone stands around because of a guy who did something criminal. So how do these religions form, or how do these things come about? You could say that it took a long, we didn't actually end up with, the whole cross thing wasn't a religion, wasn't symbolic to God or a religious religion. It was, a judicial court. This is, go to court. Crime. It was crime. It's crime and punishment. It's crime and punishment in Roman law, but now then it's religion. Well, Guy Fawkes is crime and punishment, and it ends up religiously done. So it's just a interesting comparison. So I'm not too sure about Guy Fawkes. There were a lot of random plots going on. I think there were some plots from the Scots. There were all kinds of unruly, rabbly plots going on. That's just one of many. Happened to be Parliament, but knowing what happened with, it's just one of the most well-known ones. If you look around that period, there are actually quite a lot of plots that got thwarted or attempted. Maybe some were successful. So to be honest, it's almost like, there's a lot of crazy things going on. Some end up on the front of the newspaper, others don't. So Guy Fawkes is kind of like really a little bit like, the front page newspaper story, whatever they choose to put on the front cover. There were loads of plots going on, quite mad ones that could have ended up as the main thing, but they chose that one from Parliament. And that's why I'm starting to wonder, it's because it's Parliament again. Oh, look, Robert Peel and burning some sticks under Parliament, just like piling up the bonfire, 2 cartloads of wood, and then Parliament burns down. It's almost like, the old blowing up Parliament trick again. It's like, it's just making me think, the people wouldn't have wanted to blow Parliament up. But that's a twist, because then that's why you burn Guy Fawkes. Why would we all want to burn Guy Fawkes? He tried to blow up democracy. It's one of those. It's a little bit like, there's been a serious accident. We'll have to have more speed cameras then, won't we? It's like that, isn't it? It's like, you'd have thought everyone would want to get rid of speed cameras, wouldn't you? Now, there's been a very fatal accident, very, very serious, now, then we've got everyone chanting more speed cameras everywhere, we don't want to get rid of speed cameras, and get rid of them and have more freedom. It's kind of like that, innit? It's like, you'd have thought that everyone wanted to get, like, it's almost like, this is the thing with Oliver Cromwell, isn't it? Everyone cheering Cromwell, down with the king or whatever, and cheering Cromwell and, get rid of the conquerors or whatever. They don't celebrate, they definitely don't celebrate Oliver Cromwell. In a way, Cromwell succeeded. But what happens with Cromwell, after they dug his body up and dragged it around on carts and stuck his head on a pike on the top of Parliament to make an example out of him. I don't know when that gunpowder plot thing started. I don't know when they started celebrating Guy Fawkes. Straight away? Did they start making bonfires straight away after the Gunpowder Plot? Were they celebrating Bonfire Night in the 1640s? Does anyone celebrate Cromwell? It's almost kind of like they hated Cromwell that much that they dug his body up, dragged it around and stuck his head on a pike on the top. It makes me think now, it's almost as if they synonymously superimposed Guy Fawkes for Cromwell, and it's almost like, Cromwell was the guy who succeeded in overthrowing the royals. How dare he? It's almost like it's Cromwell on the fire. It's Cromwell on the fire. We're burning Cromwell, But for Parliament, everyone would not want Parliament to be burned down. Cromwell didn't burn Parliament down. He ended up taking over the whole thing. But Parliament did burn down later on. So all these things have got interesting twists to them. I actually really think that they kind of do really want to get rid of democracy, really, to be honest. I think they'd like to get rid of democracy and not have voting, which they're kind of doing. Because, you see, in America, they said, write down any name you want. You're free to write down anyone's name. Write down the name of the person you want and the person for. And then it gets hijacked, and now it's just flip. What's the point in flip? What's the excitement in flicking a coin? Heads or tails? Ooh, the excitement is killing me. It's so boring. The thing is, if flicking a coin, heads or tails, is so interesting, why the need for the casino? Ooh, we've got roulette, we've got backgammon, we've got, chess, we've got, all kinds of games, It's like to the titty twister, we got, all kinds of pussy, it's these people, these corporate people are the ones who are like, hey, look, a Mars bar, a Babe Ruth, a dime a dozen, a Whisper, a Mars bar, how many different chocolate bars do these people come out with? We've got Tango, Sprite, Diet Coke, Get Me a Tab, Root Beer, whatever. These guys have got more ideas coming out of their back pockets than whatever. Where are all the different political parties? We've got Green Party, Red Party, Purple Party, Blue Party, Democrats, Republicans. But the best they can come up with is, Republican or Democrat. Hey, that's exciting. Hey, we've got a new brand of soda out. It's called Mark Zuckerberg Moondust, These guys are so boring. And then there's like Kamala Harris going, oh yeah, we're going to challenge Trump if he wins. Like, fall back to sleep, Notice, when they're making money out of it and they're selling you a product, it's like, oh, look at all, what have you got to offer? Well, look, we've got Sprite, Diet Sprite, Cherry Sprite, Orange Sprite, every fucking Sprite under the sun and more, it's bar humbug, these people are trying to, you take your pick, the possibilities are endless. But when it's, who's going to be in charge? It's not like, write down the name of the chocolate bar, it's your favourite. If you were going to the ballot box to vote for your favourite chocolate bar, then they want to give you the choice. Look at all these boxes to tick, a selection box. I just don't know which to choose. Shall I have a quality street or shall I have a strawberry twist? I can't decide. But when it's, oh, let's go and vote. Bum, 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 and the brass band plays. Dun, dun, dun. Who's it going to be? Who's just going to win the favourite chocolate bar? Is it going to be Whisper or Twix? What's the people's choice? Open the Sun News like the fucking race, isn't it? It's the Grand National. Oh, it's such a... We don't know who it's going to be. It's such a suspense is killing me. We're so excited we don't know who it's going to be. What's your favourite chocolate bar? I don't know. We just can't decide. The polls say that it could be a Whisper. Oh, who's going to win this election, Oh, let's have real competition. Let's have some real choice. Oh, don't spoil it. Don't be a spoiler. Well, Harris has banned Whisper bars and Twix. And she's got a legal suit against Babe Ruth. And now it can only possibly be a Cadbury's Fruit, a nut, or a Twinkie. The suspense is fucking killing me. Toss that coin. Grow up, Camilla Harris. Grow up, Camilla. Get a life, Oh, toss the coin. Is it going to be heads or tails? I never get bored of this game, And again, it's Biden, and now it's Trump, and now it's Clinton, The suspense is killing me, and the boredom, This is it. We can spoilers, No, it's such childishness and hypocrites, Oh, toss the coin, But these people, it's like on Dexter's Lab, isn't it? Oh, it's the fun stick, and can I have a go on the fun stick, please? Well, it's golf, or more golf, Donald. What's it going to be? Golf, or more golf. This guy never gets bored of golf. It's amazing. Baseball, American football, basketball, ice hockey. It's never get bored of sport. But in politics, it's Republican or Democrat. This is it with these people. They're so boring. It's unbelievable. Toss the fucking coin. Are there any more games around here? I don't know how they don't think that it is boring. Boring. Never mind, it's a spoiler. Oh, it's a spoiler. Just spoil it for Donald, just spoil it for Camilla. Boring. MSNBC need to wake up and get a fucking life, don't they? This is it, So, I don't know how we got into that from Guy Fawkes, but, effectively, right, it's almost kind of like, I'm thinking that Cromwell was such a big deal in history that it's almost like they've superimposed or juxtaposed Cromwell into the place of Guy Fawkes. I don't know if they were having bonfires straight away or if they gradually snuck them in. But what I do know is they were lighting fires on old, like on the hill forts or on national monuments, because I knew they were doing it here. They were lighting like beacons at Christmas or at Coronation, and they would just light a fire. It wasn't like for bonfire night or for Guy Fawkes, but I know they did it on some of the ancient sites around here on certain like Coronation. So they were lighting like, oh, let's light a bonfire. They weren't doing it just for like, Guy Fawkes night or November the 5th for the gunpowder plot. It was kind of like they did it at Jubilees for the royalty and things like that. So I'm starting to think now that this whole bonfire night and the 5th of November thing, I'm going to have a little look to see what was going on with it sort of like actually around the 1640s, if they'd established it at that time. But they only just moved New Year's. New Year's Day was like in March until 1600. So they'd only just made New Year's Day on January. So Christmas was just a religious festival like Michaelmas or Hillary term. And remember, they had Hillary term as well. And they were putting those, then they started having those jubilees on the bonfires on the hills and so forth. So there's some shifts going on, how the government, the establishment, the royals want our national perception to be, on what things they want us to celebrate, and what things they want us to forget, and what new things they want to introduce. I'm starting to think now that I'm starting to think that the whole bonfire night and 5th of November thing, that they're actually, I think they're kind of like unofficially juxtaposing Cromwell into it, almost like they set his head on top of Westminster Hall for 30 years. It can't be up there forever, can it? It's got some of that elements put into it. So yeah, that's it. I need to do some more reading. But I'll have this is what I'm thinking at the moment, and I want to get it down and recorded. I want to have a look into actually when they started establishing that bonfire, because remember they were lighting fires for stuff, but not for Cromwell. They were lighting them for like jubilees. They had those beacons as well and stuff, and they were lighting them at certain celebrations. But I don't think the Jubilee is a religious celebration. Michaelmas is Christ. You see, when you think of it, Michaelmas, Christmas, then you've got your Hillary term and stuff like that. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it now. Those were like religious festivals. It's not like now. And then the New Year's Day was March, according to Google, unless it's been faked. I don't know. But so it's. I need to do more reading, but as I'm reading more, I'm definitely kind of like getting a better kind of like big picture of the whole thing, and I think that I've got a really good kind of like from that Luddite thing to the Labour Party forming is like a really, really good snapshot. That bit is like what they've done is that they've it's all been to keep people poor and maximise for the rich, but also they've actually really not done anything to prevent crime. In fact, quite the opposite. And we're not really, they've made a bit of a mess as well, and all that